I paid $12,000 for a family vacation to Hawaii, but my dad gave my spot to my sister's deadbeat fiancé. So I made one change that made them regret it for the rest of their lives. I'm Colleen, 29, a project coordinator for a renewable energy company in Phoenix. I started as a field technician installing solar panels on Arizona rooftops when it was 115 degrees and the metal would literally blister your hands through work gloves. I worked my way up through grit and determination. Now I oversee installations for everything from residential complexes to major commercial buildings. Last quarter alone, I managed $900,000 in projects, all completed ahead of schedule and under budget. I make around $72,000 a year, plus performance bonuses when installations exceed expectations. My parents hit rock bottom during the pandemic 3 years ago. Dad worked as a equipment sales manager for decades, crushing it until COVID destroyed the construction industry overnight. He was pulling in six figures, selling heavy machinery to contractors across 4 states. Then everything collapsed. Mom never held steady employment, always with a new excuse: chronic fatigue, shifting market conditions, and now it's her pottery studio that somehow costs more than it generates. When their apartment complex converted to condos, they faced eviction. They begged for help just until they stabilized financially. I've always been smart with money. I still drive an 11-year-old Honda Pilot with 203,000 miles that runs perfectly. Even though I could afford something newer, it's reliable, paid off, and built to last. I had the foresight to buy a duplex as an investment in 2019. Nothing extravagant, just a solid 3-bedroom unit in a decent neighborhood with strong rental potential. I put down 25% to avoid PMI and secured a fantastic 2.8% 30-year fixed rate before rates skyrocketed. I agreed to let them rent at $950 monthly, roughly half of market rate. The mortgage payment is $1,650 plus $280 in HOA fees. I was literally subsidizing their living situation every month. I assumed they'd be grateful, get financially stable, and either pay market rate or find their own place within 18 months. 3 years later, that rent money shows up maybe 70% of the time. My parents have shortchanged me approximately $11,000 in rent over 3 years. Emily, my 24-year-old sister, moving in 18 months ago, made everything worse. "We'll catch up next month" became their mantra, alongside, "Why are you being so unreasonable about this?" Emily represents a special breed of entitlement. She has a communications degree, but became a party influencer who suddenly got career-focused when reality demanded actual employment. She moved in after her roommates got fed up covering her portion of utilities. She attempted the freelance lifestyle blogger route for about 4 months before landing an entry-level position at a local marketing firm. She constantly complains about being underappreciated despite having zero professional portfolio. She makes about $38,000 but spends like she's earning $90,000. Whenever I mention the missing rent, Mom would guilt trip me. "We're family, not some business. Why are you nickeling and diming us?" Meanwhile, they never miss payments on their new Jeep or Emily's monthly nail appointments. Dad once told me with complete seriousness that they couldn't afford rent because they had to pay for Emily's $350 hair color treatment. Last month, I stopped by unexpectedly on Sunday and discovered them hosting a pool party with roughly 15 people. They'd installed a new 65-inch smart TV I hadn't seen before and apparently just completed a bathroom renovation with subway tiles. When I asked about the overdue rent, Mom whispered, "Not now. We have company." Like I was the inappropriate one. The breaking point arrived when Dad finally retired in February. Unlike most equipment guys, he managed to avoid serious injuries, though his back is completely destroyed from years of heavy lifting. He needs spinal fusion surgery, but keeps postponing it. For years, he talked about wanting to visit Hawaii, the ultimate paradise, he'd say, like he personally designed the volcanic landscape. He had this coffee table book about Hawaiian beaches that he'd browse at least twice weekly, telling anyone who'd listen about the natural beauty and perfect weather. I decided to make it happen as a retirement gift, hoping it would finally earn some gratitude and maybe repair our strained relationship. $12,000 for an 8-day trip to Maui. Round-trip flights from Phoenix Sky Harbor, a beachfront resort near Wailea, snorkeling excursions, the complete experience. I spent weeks researching the optimal time to visit, even contacted my college friend Amber, who's been working for a resort management company there for 2 years. She's living her best life in a beachfront condo, driving a convertible she got tax-free through her company. She promised to show us authentic Hawaii, not just tourist attractions. When I announced the trip during Sunday dinner, the initial excitement and appreciation lasted approximately 7 minutes before Emily asked if Cameron could join. Freaking Cameron. Cameron is my sister's fiancé. Picture what happens when privilege meets complete delusion. Imagine every motivational Instagram post packed into one 27-year-old with perfect teeth and a trust fund he pretends doesn't exist. He calls himself a digital marketing innovator and brand experience curator, but his actual business model involves talking about business while others cover his expenses. His LinkedIn profile reads like AI-generated corporate nonsense. Lots of maximizing brand synergy, but zero measurable results. His profile picture shows him pointing at a rented BMW while wearing a North Face jacket. Textbook. His venture capital connections consist of a college roommate who works as a receptionist at a firm that once funded a failed meal delivery startup. He constantly name drops tech companies like he has insider information, but it's all content he read on TechCrunch that morning. Every conversation with him eventually becomes a sales pitch for his latest venture, which is always vague enough that you can't determine what the business actually does. Last Christmas, he trapped me for 35 minutes explaining his revolutionary platform concept. The entire idea was basically Airbnb for workout equipment, which already exists in approximately 8 different forms. He has this supernatural ability to order the most expensive entree on any menu while simultaneously grabbing his phone when the bill arrives. Classic technique. Oh, I need to handle this urgent client call real quick, followed by a 10-minute bathroom disappearance that perfectly coincides with payment time. I initially refused Cameron joining. I was maxing out my budget for 4 people. Emily immediately went full drama queen. Why do you always have to sabotage everything? It's not like you can't afford it with your fancy coordinator salary. She conveniently ignored that her communications specialist role paid enough for a weekend trip to Sedona, not a luxury Hawaiian vacation. My parents supported her. Mom's classic manipulation, but we're family, and Cameron will be family soon. Don't you want your father to have everyone there for his retirement celebration? Dad chimed in, sweetheart. It would mean everything to have everyone there. Cameron's actually quite knowledgeable about hospitality industry trends. I looked Cameron directly in the eye and said, if you want to come, you can pay your own way. Should be easy money for someone with your business expertise. The way his expression twitched told me everything about his actual financial situation. He mumbled something about liquidating cryptocurrency investments and transferring funds from business accounts, which I'm pretty sure translated to begging his parents for money. The topic seemed to disappear after several days. I thought they'd finally accepted my boundaries. I should have known better. These are people who treat boundaries like suggestions, similar to speed limits or expiration dates. I remember Cameron bragging about how his fraternity brother now worked airport security at Sky Harbor. He said, if I ever need assistance, he'd handle it. Cameron smirked. I assumed he was lying. Now everything made perfect sense, but I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 weeks before departure, Cameron cornered me in my parents' kitchen while I was making coffee. So, I've been strategizing about maximizing our Hawaii networking opportunity, he said, not looking up from his phone. Uh-huh, I replied, not caring while I poured coffee I'd brought from home. We need to schedule meetings with resort developers while we're there. The Hawaiian hospitality market is ripe for disruption, and I've got concepts they'll want to explore. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. Seriously, all the major players operate there. Marriott International, Hilton Worldwide, Hyatt Corporation. This could be the perfect opportunity to secure funding for my next venture. Not on the budget, Cameron, I said. I'm already covering the entire $12,000 for this family trip. I'd actually researched these companies while planning the trip. The idea that they'd meet with some random guy with no portfolio, credentials, or actual business plan was ridiculous. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime networking opportunity. He pressed, finally looking up from his phone. I've been developing a concept for a revolutionary co-working retreat that combines remote work with luxury hospitality. So a hotel with Wi-Fi? I asked. His eyes narrowed. It's more sophisticated than that. It's about creating synergistic environments that foster creative collaboration while maximizing experiential value. Right? Still not happening. That evening, Emily confronted me, calling me selfish for not supporting Cameron's important business opportunity. According to her, I was sabotaging his career because I was jealous of his vision. I held firm. The trip was for Dad's retirement, not Cameron's imaginary business meetings. Fast forward to departure day. I was finishing paperwork on a solar installation when my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We've decided that Cameron is coming on the trip instead of you. He's more adventurous and will take better photos for our memories. Your father agrees he'll be better company than you would be. I stare at my phone, my stomach dropping. Was this some kind of sick joke? I texted back asking what she meant. She responded, I'm serious. Cameron is taking your seat, and you can always go on another trip sometime. We need Cameron there for his business connections anyway. I replied with one word, understood. Then I closed my office door and did what they least expected. I called Hawaiian Airlines directly to investigation what was happening. The representative confirmed I was checked in for departure in 4 hours while I was sitting in my office 25 miles away. After speaking with supervisors, I discovered that Emily had called Hawaiian Airlines 10 days earlier, claiming I had a family emergency. She tried getting the ticket transferred to Cameron's name, but Hawaiian doesn't allow simple name changes. Instead, they plan to have Cameron use my boarding pass and somehow clear security. This wasn't family drama anymore. This was fraud. I called Hawaiian Airlines back and spoke to their fraud department. Since everything was booked under my name and credit card, I had complete control. While they couldn't stop passengers already checked in for today's flight, they could flag the return portion for security review. I then requested full cancellation and refund of the return tickets, citing fraud. Next, I logged into Expedia and canceled the resort reservations. Then I systematically called each tour company and canceled every excursion. I called Amber in Maui to explain the situation. They were about to board a flight to a place they'd never visited, thinking everything was paid for, but I'd canceled it all. They'd kicked me off my own trip to bring Cameron instead. That's cold girl, she paused. Also completely deserved. What are they going to do when they land? Figure it out, I guess. Maui isn't exactly budget-friendly for unprepared tourists. A decent meal at a mid-range restaurant would cost $65 to $85 per person. A taxi from Kahului Airport to Wailea would be around $75. Their emergency fund would disappear within 36 hours. I called my bank and reported my credit card as compromised, had a new one issued with different numbers, and temporarily froze my other accounts just in case anyone had my information. I wasn't taking chances. These people had proven they felt entitled to my money. My best friend Rachel always saw through their manipulation and warned me, but I didn't listen closely. I texted her, remember that conversation about consequences? It's happening now. She came over that night with wine and her boyfriend Derek, who works as a locksmith. By 9 p.m., every lock on my duplex had been changed, new security cameras installed, and a smart lock mounted on the front door. I contacted a property management company I'd worked with through business connections and had them draft a formal lease agreement at full market rate, $2,400 per month, utilities not included, first and last month's rent due immediately upon signing. Finally, I called my real estate attorney. I'd used him before for property issues, and he quickly prepared an official eviction notice, giving them 30 days to either sign the new lease or vacate the premises. That wasn't everything. While my attorney was preparing the eviction paperwork, I explained how Cameron had used my personal information to board the flight, essentially committing identity theft. My attorney, who also handled criminal cases, immediately recognized the opportunity. We need to document this thoroughly, he said. This isn't just family conflict anymore. It's potentially criminal fraud. I filed a police report the next morning, bringing copies of text messages, screenshots of original booking confirmations, and flight records showing someone had used my ticket. The officer taking the report seemed impressed by my documentation. Most identity theft cases don't have this level of evidence, he said. Usually it's just mysterious charges on credit cards, not fully documented cases with confessions in text messages. I also called Hawaiian Airlines back and requested to speak with their fraud department. The representative was professionally shocked when I explained what happened. "Ma'am, this is a serious security breach," she said. "Someone using another person's boarding pass and identification is something we monitor very closely." She flagged the incident for internal review and assured me they'd be investigating. And remember Cameron's airport security buddy? Apparently, the guy helped him bypass the ID verification process. Hawaiian Airlines didn't catch the discrepancy until the return leg, which triggered a security investigation. My attorney sent a formal cease and desist letter regarding the identity theft and helped me file charges for identity fraud and misuse of personal information. Their Hawaiian Airlines flight landed in Maui around 6 p.m. local time. I imagine the excitement as they disembarked, all smiles and Instagram stories, ready for their luxury vacation. Except there was no resort shuttle waiting. No reservación. No return flights. Rachel came over that night with pizza and drinks. We spent time creating a detailed spreadsheet tracking every dollar they'd borrowed or taken from me over the years, with dates, amounts, and any promises about repayment. The first panic call hit my phone around 8 p.m. my time. I didn't answer. Then another and another. My phone started exploding with text messages, which Rachel and I read aloud between bites of pizza. "Emily, what the hell did you do?" "Cameron, this is completely unprofessional and potentially illegal. My attorney will be contacting you." "Mom, please call us back. We don't know what to do." I replied with a single text. "Enjoy Hawaii with Cameron. I hear he's more adventurous than I am." Then I turned off my phone and enjoyed the first peaceful night I'd had in months. Rachel couldn't stop laughing. "Girl, Cameron's attorney? What lawyer represents people who can't afford their own plane tickets?" "The same one who handles all his million-dollar deals," I replied, reaching for another slice of pizza. 3 days later, I turned my phone back on. The messages were getting interesting. "Dad, we had to call Cameron's father to wire emergency money. You've humiliated me in front of my future son-in-law." "Emily, Cameron fell off a surfboard during a lesson we had to book last minute. He sprained his wrist and can't take photos of anything now. Mom's devastated. This is all your fault." Amazing how my fault extends to a rebellious surfboard. From her messages, I pieced together their tropical nightmare. They were stranded at the airport with no hotel reservation, no transportation, and rapidly disappearing funds. They had to call Cameron's parents to wire emergency cash. That must have been a delightful conversation. "Hey, Dad, we need $4,000 wired immediately or we'll be sleeping in the airport." They spent 4 nights in a budget motel near the airport that apparently had cockroaches the size of small dogs. Based on my research, they probably paid about $350 per night for this privilege. Hawaii's version of budget accommodation is still priced for oil executives compared to mainland standards. The highlight was Cameron having to sell his vintage Rolex, definitely a knockoff, to cover expenses. From what I gathered through their texts, he got about $400 for a watch he claimed was worth $8,000. Tragic. They landed back in Phoenix 6 days after they left, having spent most of the trip panicking, broke, and apparently being chased by wild chickens near their budget motel, according to Emily's angry texts. They spent most of their time arguing in the motel room, with Cameron blaming her for the vacation from hell and my parents questioning their future son-in-law's business expertise. My favorite detail, they apparently tried to visit Haleakala National Park but couldn't afford the entrance fees. So the centerpiece of Dad's dream trip was something they only saw from the highway. Brutal. When they pulled up to my place in an Uber, I was standing in the driveway with Rachel. We were casually drinking iced coffee, looking like we'd been having the time of our lives while they suffered in paradise. I'd positioned both our cars in the driveway, my Pilot and her Subaru, so they couldn't pull in. What the actual hell was that? Dad shouted as he got out of the car, his face lobster red from either Hawaiian sun or rage. I took a slow sip of my coffee. That was what consequences look like. You stranded us in a foreign state, Mom screamed. We could have been kidnapped. Yet here you are, I observed. Alive and well, minus one functional wrist, I see. I nodded toward Cameron, whose arm was in a makeshift sling. Cameron stepped forward, wincing. You realize what you've done is actionable, right? I have contacts at two major law firms who would take this case pro bono. Rachel snorted. Wow, that must be convenient. Do these law firms also provide medical care for surfboard-related injuries? Because that sling looks like it was made by a kindergartner with a dish towel. You have no idea what we've been through, Dad growled. Cameron injured his wrist when the surfboard hit him. The motel they stuck us in had no working air conditioning. Emily got food poisoning from a food truck. We had to sleep in the airport one night because our credit cards wouldn't work. And the car rental place was absolutely no help at all, Mom added. This last part didn't surprise me. What did they expect? Hello, Hertz customer service. My daughter paid for a luxury vacation and then canceled it when we uninvited her. Please send free transportation. Don't forget the chicken incident, I said, unable to hide my smirk. I heard that was particularly traumatic. Cameron's face turned an even deeper shade of red. Those chickens were clearly not controlled properly. I specifically told the motel manager I was an experienced traveler. Oh, I'm sure you did, Rachel muttered just loud enough for everyone to hear. Right after you told him about your Fortune 500 connections and cryptocurrency portfolio. Emily was almost in tears now. We had to call Cameron's dad for money. Do you know how humiliating that was? Almost as humiliating as uninviting someone from a trip they paid for, I suggested. You never answered our calls, Mom nearly screamed. We didn't know what to do. Well, you figured it out, didn't you? And from what I hear, Hawaii has excellent tourist safety records. Plus, you had Cameron, the hospitality industry expert. I figured you were in capable hands. That's when I reached into my back pocket and pulled out the lease agreement and eviction notice. Since we're having this heart-to-heart, let me clarify some things. Here are the new terms for the duplex. $2,400 per month, utilities not included, first and last month's rent due immediately. You have 30 days to either sign this lease or vacate the premises. They stared at the papers like I'd handed them death sentences. This is illegal, Cameron started. You can't just. It's completely legal, I interrupted. You were never on any lease. My parents have been month-to-month tenants paying below market rate, and I've decided to change the terms. It's all explained in black and white. We don't have that kind of money right now, Mom protested. Not my problem, I replied. I'm sure Cameron's parents can help you out again like they did in Hawaii. My father stepped forward, his voice suddenly gentle. Sweetheart, this is extreme. We're talking about your family here. No, this isn't about family. It's about business, and business is what I'm doing now. As they turned to leave, I added one final point. Oh, and the locks have been changed. Your new keys will be provided after you sign the lease and pay first and last month's rent. You can arrange access to retrieve your belongings by contacting the property management company listed on page 3. They didn't sign the new lease. They also didn't leave. The 30 days passed with them ignoring my property manager's calls and emails. They thought they could wait me out, that I'd eventually soften and let things return to normal. They were wrong. I filed for eviction exactly one day after the deadline. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. During that time, they alternated between ignoring me completely and sending manipulative messages. Mom, I raised you better than this. Dad, no daughter of mine would treat family this way. Emily, I hope you're happy destroying our lives for your petty revenge. Each message just confirmed I'd made the right decision. Not once did they acknowledge their role in creating this situation. Not once did they offer to make amends or take responsibility. It was always about what I was doing to them, never about what they had done to me. The identity theft case moved forward too. Both Emily and Cameron were hit with misdemeanor charges and fines. It wasn't enough for jail time, but it was enough to give them both criminal records. It's been 8 months since the Hawaii disaster. I haven't heard from my immediate family since the eviction was finalized. The silence has been surprisingly peaceful. I kept the duplex, found reliable tenants who actually pay the full amount on time, and I'm using that extra income to fund my own adventures instead of subsidizing adult dependence. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people face the consequences of their own choices.